Okay. Thank you, everyone. The time is 10 a.m. It's June 28th, and this is the beginning of the State Anatomical Advisory Committee. I'd like to bring the meeting in order. I'd like to do a roll call first and establish a quorum. So I'll just start on the top of the screen there. Dr. Gilbert.
Present.
Dr. Hubbard.
Present.
Mary Mena.
Present.
Bethany Wright.
Present.
Cody Lepansky.
Present.
Myself here. And though she's not on the roll call, we'd like to introduce and welcome Ms. Julie Long as our 7th member of the committee. She was voted in yesterday by the commission. She still has to finish her open meetings training that all of us did a long time ago before she's able to vote or be a part of the roll call. But she can be assigned subgroups and be asked for tasks to be done. So we'll have her get those meeting training done, and then that way she can be a full member of the committee. I want to thank everybody for being on today. We got 100% here, so there's no absentees that we have to go over. As we always do every morning, we want to do the Pledge of Allegiance, right? And the Texas Pledge, do we do that, or is that something we need to do?
Yeah, it's on.
It's not on the agenda. All right, we're skipping it then. Okay. Mr. White always made us do it, so very good. We're going to move on the agenda. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. We're not going to keep you guys too long like our usual meetings. We want to discuss and appoint committee members and work groups. The idea behind the work groups is to allow us to have more discussions, to move things along faster, be more efficient. Is it 2 people we can have per subgroup, or can we have 3 on there?
Three.
Up to 3, Helen, is that right?
Yes, just so long as it's not a quorum of the committee, so less than a quorum.
Okay, and quorum is 4, so less than that is a work group that we can do. Very good. And I need to introduce Helen Kelly, who's our Assistant Attorney General, who's helping us out today as Ms. Kemp is on her vacation time. And also, I want to thank Commissioner Tips for being here. She's always at our meetings, and she's also the chairwoman now of the commission, the Texas Funeral Services Commission. Thank you for being here. And Maria, also thank you for all your help and everything setting this up first. As we go forward in these subgroups.
Excuse me, Dr. Ali, can I interrupt? We can barely hear you. Is there any way that you can up your volume there?
Yeah, I wish I had a microphone so I could speak louder.
Now we're hearing you.
Okay, I'll just talk louder. That's not a problem.
Thank
I've got
you.
3 boys at home. I'm used to shouting at them. So, very good. Dr. Hubbard, can you hear me okay now?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So this morning, as we go down our agenda, the goal is to assign our committee members into subgroups. These subgroups are tasked with getting together, creating recommendations. Your recommendations are going to then be brought to the group, discussed, and then formally introduced to our legal, so that they can take that and put it into legalese, so then we can present it to the commission to help with formulating new rules and regulations, as we've gone from the State Anatomical Board and the rules and regulations they had to the State Anatomical Committee and that under the Texas Funeral Services Commission. So there are edits, there are changes, as we have included many other groups in the whole world of anatomical donation specimens, those kind of topics. So as we go on to agenda topic number 2, discussion and appointment, we just did that. And so we're going to agenda 3 now, assignment of anatomical related issues to committee work groups for the development of rulemaking recommendations to bring before the entire committee. So as I said, the task is for our committee members to take on these particular proposed issues as the State Anatomical Advisory Committee. It is my goal that we get these recommendations back from your subgroups within 2 weeks. So then we can discuss, get those together, and then have another State Anatomical Advisory Committee meeting before the commission's meeting on August 27th. These will need to be formalized and introduced to our legal team, so then they can go over it, scrub it, and get it to the commission workbooks by close of business August, I believe it was August 9th, was on Ms. Kemp's email. So that's our deadline period that it has to be completely formalized and entered into their books. So then they have time to review it. So then they can discuss at their August 27th meeting. We will be on their agenda at that time to be able to help discuss and answer questions. So the first topic that we're going to discuss is application process. So when we talk about application process, there's a couple different groups here. There are the entities that receive whole body donations, which are the will body programs, and the NATOs, the transplant anatomical donation organizations, NATOs, to become registered with the commission. So if you're a will body program or wanting to be a new will body program, what does that process look like when you apply? If you are a NATO that's coming into Texas, what does that process look like? This subgroup will look at what the current state statutes and regulations and rules are and see if they need to be edited, any recommendations, changes to meet all the new entities that are involved now versus beforehand. It was mostly just universities, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Hubbard, Dr. Gilbert, that beforehand it was just the universities that were part of the will body program.
Except for your group.
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the tasks, is to determine the application process for those two organizations, the NATOs and the will body programs. The second task is to recommend a application process for the anatomical facilities. So these are all the organizations that will be state approved to receive a whole body or specimen from a will body program or a NATO to be able to do medical education, research, bioskills labs, et cetera, that are listed in our approved items that can be done at those facilities. So that's the second task of this application process group. In that, we also need to talk about renewals and for these registered and authorized agencies. So the will body programs, the NATOs, and the anatomical facilities will now need to be applied for renewal. And we can discuss this also in the subgroup of whether it's yearly, every 2 years. The commission has recommended that if the funeral homes are doing it yearly, that we try to align with that too. So that's been a recommendation from some of the commission members. And so that renewal will have a fee to it, and it will be simple enough to go online, file the application, update any personal information for whoever the contact is at that entity, and then pay a yearly fee. I know some of you, whether you're a nurse, you're a physician, or whatever organization, law, each year you have to renew your license and pay that fee and any other things. So though it will be new for anatomical members from will body programs to anatomical facilities, and some may complain that we never had a fee, this is how we will go forward with having a renewal fee. So that's another recommendation.
Now, can we get a little clarification? When we're talking about renewals, are we just paying a renewal fee, or does that involve reinspection as well?
That's a great question, Dr. Hubbard. It's just a renewal application, and the inspections will be different, sir. That will be determined by another subgroup as to how often that occurs. Yes, sir, good question. There are recommendations on how much we pay. I believe the funeral homes, how much do they pay? $595. $595 is what they pay yearly to renew their application and their licensor. So not that that's the number I'm telling you that needs to be, but if we're trying to align with the Texas Funeral Services Commission and all the other organizations, it may be somewhere to start off with. In this same group, miscellaneous issues, the length of time for initial authorization. So if a organization applies, what is that initial time for the authorization? We talked about renewal time frame. Is this going to be yearly, every 2 years? We'd like to align it with what the Texas Funeral Services Commission is doing currently right now. So that's the first subgroup or work group, if you want to call it that. What I'd like to do is, as I go through this, I can go through all of the different areas, so then everybody can see what they're good at, what they feel they're comfortable with, what they can come back with better recommendations. So let's cover all three real quick, and we'll come back and then we can start to assign and see who wants to be involved in each of these groups. The second section is inspection requirements and the process of inspection. We do have an inspection team that the commission sends out to any facility that applies. The current inspection process is what the State Anatomical Board had set up prior, and they have been using that inspection process. As we move into multiple different types of entities that are involved in this process, whether physicians' offices, surgery centers, hospitals, convention centers, ballrooms, all those things. We need to look at, edit, and make recommendations as to what this inspection process looks like. So as I go through these bullet points, recommendations for inspection requirements that NATO's will body programs and anatomical facilities and any authorized person entity must meet to receive authorization and registration. I know I have looked at the inspection of anatomical facilities. I think there's a lot of edits we can make to make it stronger, make it clearer, define certain terms, ventilation, those kind of things, and look at best practices. And the concept here is for this subgroup to provide their best recommendation, any type of data that you can provide to show why you're recommending this particular rule would be very helpful for the commission. The next subtopic under the inspection requirements and processes is inspection time periods. Should they be inspected yearly, every 2 years, every 3 years? I've seen up to 5 years. We need to hone that down. I believe the funeral homes are inspected every 3 years, I believe. Okay, so
Depending on the results of the inspection.
Sure. Sure. But if they have a clear inspection, okay, I see Professor Manna saying 2 years up there for her. Okay, but we'd like to once again align with the commission to just make it easy, so we don't have 5 years here, 2 years here, 1 year there. Let's try to keep it all the same as a recommendation.
All right. The current time frame with the existing will body programs and anatomical facilities is a 3-year cycle.
Yes, sir. And I think that's a great number, and it seems to fit with what the commission is doing currently with funeral homes. So for that subgroup to decide if that recommendation is good and any data they want to get to that recommendation would be appreciated. Recommendations on inspection process, unannounced notifications, procedures should there be inspection deficiencies, opportunities for corrections. So in that subtopic, okay, you've inspected the facility, can it be unannounced? If you have deficiencies, what is the process then for that organization to clear those deficiencies? If they don't, what happens if they have a deficiency? Are they still allowed to continue doing their business, or do they have to immediately stop until the deficiency is corrected? Are there different categories of deficiencies, minor versus major, that would cause one to stop immediately versus one that, hey, you need to fix that, whatever it is? So things that we want recommendations from that subgroup. Are there any questions about those topics underneath the inspection requirement and process? Thank you. And then the third major topic is determining needs in Texas, requests for cadavers, anatomical specimens in the state of Texas and outside of the state of Texas. This has been a hot button for the commission and many of our will body programs, so we really want to pay some good attention to this. We want to recommend how we determine the needs for donors, anatomical specimens in Texas under section 691.030 of the Texas Health and Safety Code. So this subgroup is going to really need to define how do we define the needs of Texas? How do we do that? Is there a registry? Is there a 60-day rolling request that if you don't hit that 60 days, then NATO's or the will body programs actually may then send donor bodies anywhere they want? So we need to define that process, define how we determine what the needs of Texas are. I can't imagine this is a simple answer, but I think between the NATO's, the will body programs, and the anatomical facilities that are all represented on this committee, that we can't find a smart compromise that works, that allows everybody to do what they're meant to be here to do. And that's to further education with dignity and respect of those donors being at the utmost top requirement. So that's one particular section of the determining needs in Texas, request for cadavers and anatomical specimens. The second section in here is recommendations on the process for authorized entities to request decedent donors for use for advanced medical forensic science, and recommendations for commission's procedures to redistribute cadavers pursuant to that need. So, when an authorized entity requests a donor, what is the commission's distribution and redistribution pathway? So giving advice to the commission, as they do have the final say so in statute as to where these donor bodies and specimens can be distributed to. So they need some recommendation and advice as to what's the best process. We do have a priority list in statute of taking care of the higher level education institutions, medical schools, dental schools, forensic programs. And then it goes down that list. I believe there's 5 or 6 entities on that list that have to be taken care of before anything's transferred out of state. So getting some advice on that would be greatly appreciated. And then the next subsection on this is method to coordinate between requests received by commission and Will Body Program or NATO to help supply requests. So how that method of receiving requests, if we need to look at the way it's done currently, if it's antiquated, what we need to do to improve that request ability, how we go on the website. I know the website is being transferred over here pretty soon. Our IT department is working on the new website to be able to have these requests online, to be able to do the authorization applications online. A lot of the things we're talking about in these major subgroups will be done online. So we think that way too, year 2024, try to be a little bit more tech savvy in how we have our entities or full body programs and NATOs interact with our website and also our constituents. So those are the 3 major subgroups. And so the work groups that I'd like to develop, now that you have an understanding, there's the application process, there's the inspection requirement process, and there's the determining needs in Texas process. And those all have their subcategories under it. On the application process, I'd like to, if I could, request not have 2 of the same organizations running that whole subgroup. We can have up to 3 people on there, and you can be on as many subgroups as you want. So I'll leave it open here for who would like to volunteer for the application process work group.
I'm happy to work on any or all, as many as you'd like to assign me.
Same here. I agree.
Is there anybody else who feels strong about the application process besides Professor Hubbard and Dr. Gilbert?
I can take it on.
Dr. Gilbert, Dr. Hubbard, and Bethany Wright on that subgroup or that work group. On the inspection requirements and process, who would like to be involved in that? And Mrs. Long may also volunteer for any of these work groups as you.
Yeah, I'll volunteer for that one.
I'm happy to contribute as well. I've got a slew of paperwork on it already, so I'm happy to hand it off to anyone or work on it myself.
You can put me on inspections as well.
I can join that group as well, Dr. Lee.
Okay, well, let me do this, Dr. Hubbard. Let me put Ms. Long, Professor Mena, and Mr. Liponsky on there, and what they can do if they have questions. Are they allowed to reach out to Dr. Hubbard if they have questions, since they've done that for so long? If you all have questions from your work group, Helen?
No, I think that would go to reaching a quorum. And so the work groups will need to have a point of contact that'll interface with the commission. I'm guessing it'll be Ms. Kemp. And she'll probably be drafting most of the rules.
Okay.
So if I can make a suggestion, I think of all of us on this group, the person with the most experience with these inspection requirements is Dr. Hubbard. Not suggesting that any of the other committee members couldn't do a great job on this, but I think we would be remiss as a committee not to include Dr. Hubbard on that work group. I'm glad to serve as well, but you've done way more inspections than anybody on the call. So that's just a recommendation or suggestion from my perspective. Which means if we need to take you off of the application one, John, I can try to take the lead on that one if needed.
I'll serve as Dr. Ali directs.
And I hear you, Dr. Gilbert. Let's do this. I'd like to try to get the 3 people that wanted to do that process to do that, even though I know Dr. Hubbard probably has the most experience and wisdom on the inspection process. I'd like to have Dr. Hubbard focus on that application process and make sure that that's done as well as we can. with you, Dr. Gilbert, and with Bethany. I think we
Dr.
can-
Lee, do you mind if I chime in? I'm sorry.
Please,
I just to clarify that the work groups, as they're going about their business, if they have a question, they should interface with Ms. Kemp. But it's not to say that the work groups will never be able to collaborate with the rest of the committee members when you guys have a meeting. The work groups will go to the committee meeting and you will all still be able to participate together at that point before it'll go to the commission. So there will be opportunity for input from other committee members
Right.
from the work.
Thank you for saying that, Helen, and you know, the subgroups or the work groups, excuse me, when they come back on our next meeting that we're gonna have before the commission's meeting, we'll have open full discussions. So it's not like just because you're not on that work group, you're not gonna have any say so. So let's keep with Ms. Julie Long and Ms. Mena and Mr. Leponski.
Cody and others, I can send you individually as a group a folder full of files and documents or
Yeah,
whatever. I've got a plethora of documents and information. You tell me what you want and I'll give you the resource information.
John, I think the document that the SAB finished with would be a good start anyway.
Well, I've got more than that.
Well, I trust me, I know, but
I guess I'm gonna put a little bit of a kibosh on that.
Why are you gonna
Because
put a kibosh on me sharing the
what in
information
the world?
to the work group?
then
I
you're
have things they
communicating.
don't have that they need. Why are you
Dr.
gonna prevent
Hubbard,
me
that
from
would be
sharing
an
the
open
information
meetings
with them?
violation. That would be an open meetings violation because one member talking to another member, suddenly we have a quorum discussing public business that, you know,
Okay.
he did call a meeting for, and so it can't be done in private. So I'm sorry, but the law is limiting that.
Okay,
can I
Ms.
ask a
Kelly,
question?
I don't understand.
You are overstepping the Open Meetings Act, but I'm not gonna argue with you.
Hold on
I
one
guess,
second.
I get,
Committee
Cody,
members,
I will legally get information to you.
Ms. Kelly, can I ask a question? If any of the documentation that Dr. Hubbard has is open public record, can it be considered that? I'm just curious if there's information that's out there, if it's open public record, then anybody can look at it, correct? And I don't know the answers, I'm asking you.
I mean, I think if it's publicly available information, that seems to be more appropriate, but I still think there's something to it in the fact that it's been gathered and kind of coalesced. And so it's still kind of putting your thumb on it because it's been specifically picked out. So I think the safest thing would be to not provide any information until the committee
So
meets
you're gonna make
again.
them recreate the wheel when the wheel's already round and has spokes.
I think, you know, if we're talking about the safest, if Dr. Hubbard wants to be a part of this and has the most knowledge, he should just be on the committee. If we're talking about skirting the laws or doing this or that, just put him on the committee. And for the three that volunteer to be on the committee, would anyone want to withdraw that volunteer and make that spot for Dr. Hubbard?
Yeah, I'll do whatever I need to. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Dr. Hubbard. Yeah, I feel like there's got to be a way, but if I need to step aside, I can. I don't know what that would entail.
Now, Cody, you stay on the work group and I will find a way to legally get information into your hands.
Okay. Is it the fact that it would be sent to all subgroup members or any? Let me ask that question.
Any, because then you're reaching a quorum, you'll have 4 members. And I guess just as an outsider, it might be valuable to have new people think of what could be a possibility. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You don't want to recreate the wheel, but I think taking a look at an issue from a new set of eyes is also valuable.
Ms. Kelly, may I?
Sure.
So the documents that are being questioned at this point would start with the current SAB rules, which are current rules for the Texas Funeral Services Commission. So that's the beginning. Beyond that,
Right, which the other members of the subgroup have available to them.
right. And then the other thing is a state anatomical board operating policy, basically, or I forget the name of the document that is publicly available. So those would be the two most informative documents to the group. Those are both publicly available. So I don't really understand why this would be an issue. Though the myriad of files that John has of edits and different things, I guess I can kind of understand that, but we need to recognize that the Texas Funeral Services Commission adopted the state anatomical board rules, and until they're changed, they're in effect. And so any of the things that we're working on rule, as far as I understand, we really need to be working from the current rule to try to find edits to it. And so I've met with Sarah many times, and my position has always been, we should be working off of the current rules that are still valid and then trying to create edits or adjustments. And we need to change them. They're outdated, but they're still in place right now. And so I think we have a lot of things that are public record that this committee could work on. And I think we need to be careful trying to reinvent the wheel. I get it. The general consensus is that we need to do things different than the SAB did, but I think we need to recognize those rules are still in place unless I'm just completely wrong.
SB 2040
if it-
explicitly states the current rules transfer intact until new rules are promulgated. Those new rules have not been made yet or sent to the Texas Register for adoption. The old rules are still in existence. They have not been changed. That's where
And I
our
guess I
starting
would
point is.
say those are all public record, and I don't see why anyone appointed could not be able to reference that information. And so I'm just saying there's no need to send things that are publicly available, and that it would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, so let me get this back under control here. Let's move forward. We're going to keep the committee members as is on the inspection process. When we meet again, which will be the entire committee, we will discuss, and any extra information that is brought then is fine because it won't be a quorum for the subgroup or the work group to do. So that work group has been set now, and we're going to move forward onto the next section, which is determining needs in Texas, requests for cadavers and anatomical specimens in Texas and out of state. I'm happy to be on that committee as I'm trying to work with some of the universities out of state and some of the organizations in state to try to determine the needs and also how we do in-state and out-of-state transfers. If that's okay with you guys, I'd like to be on that committee. Are there two other people that would like to be on the determining needs of Texas and in-state and out-of-state transfers? Dr. Gilbert? Anybody else? One, two, we can also do two.
I'm happy to work as well, so. I don't want to hog this thing, but again, I'm happy to do whatever
let's
you
do
want
this.
me to do.
No, I appreciate it, Dr. Hubbard. Let's keep that one to two. I have an idea as we move forward on keeping that one to two. It's the determining needs. Okay. And the sheet I have, do they have the sheet also on the? Okay. Can I pass these sheets to them so they can see what recommendation is that we discussed this since it's part of the meeting notes, right? Because I read off exactly off the sheet. Okay. Helen, the sheet that I'm reading off of, the exact wording that I read off today to tell each subgroup what their, the bullet points underneath are. Is that something that I can consider as part of the open meeting, so I can pass the sheet on to them so they can remember exactly what I said under each subsection as they were read exactly on like they are on here?
Let's have someone from the staff email that out to each member individually just to be safe.
Perfect. Okay. So you guys will get this. You don't have to worry about your notes as I move through it with a little bit of speed here. Okay. We've gone through agenda 1, item 2, item 3, item 4 is recommendation for agenda items for next committee meeting. So if I may start with some of these recommendations for next meeting after our call of order, our second agenda item should be that each subgroup or work group presents their section, their recommendations, any data, anything to show validity as to why you're proposing these ideas or thoughts and rules and regulations. These are expected due by, we'd like to get this, well, we have to have it before our next meeting. So if our next meeting is going to be sometime in the end of July, we'd want these to kind of come in before that, so it can all be put together on the agenda item and topics, so you can have something to look off and read your recommendations. So today is the 28th, July 20th. That gives you multiple weeks. Is that okay? I'm not sure what day that is, July 20th, but let's try to.
That's a
July 20th
Saturday.
is Saturday. So how about July 19th, which is a Friday? I believe that gives everybody plenty of time to look at, discuss within your work group, come back with your recommendations to our meeting. Helen, when they have these. Oh, that's another thing we're going to discuss with the next agenda, right? Or discuss it now. Okay. I sure will. Okay, so July 19th, Helen, when they work on these recommendations and have their thoughts and everything, can it be emailed to me as the chair? So I see that each subgroup has completed their tasks.
I really think it would be best to interface with someone on the staff, and the staff member can update you. We've received the final version from subgroup A and subgroup B.
Can that all be
Because
together into one document? And then
yes,
disseminated?
because you would also make it a quorum, and you may not discuss back and forth, but you would have knowledge ahead of the meeting. So yeah. We'll just need to have a point person on staff.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Okay. So everybody has their time. The other agenda item for today that we want to talk about is stakeholders. So these are the other entities that can be affected by our rules and decisions here with the committee and also with the commission, from the food and beverage to hotels and restaurants to all the other organizations, right? And so one of the things that we have to do is to be able to hear their organizations or these stakeholders groups. We have to hear what they have to say and how it could affect them. We've had one meeting with the hotel and restaurant a few months ago, and Mr. White was still here, Dr. White was still here with us. There are others that may want to have these meetings. And in these meetings, we can have up to 2 committee members, up to 3 committee members, Adam. So when these stakeholder meetings get put on the schedule, I will put out to the group if someone wants to be involved in that. They tend to come here to the building to have the meetings, but there's no reason why we can't have a Zoom for someone who feels that's very important to them to be at that stakeholder meeting. So that is another item that will happen in the next 3 to 4 weeks as we move forward, that we have to hear from these stakeholders and we have to discuss with them and allow them the opportunity to give input. Commissioner Tips, is there anything else regarding the stakeholders that we need to discuss? Okay. Anybody have any questions about the stakeholders meetings that may come up? Thank you.
I do have a comment. While y'all are bending over backwards to entertain these external stakeholders, a lot of our existing educational institutions who are really the top priority for the state of Texas are not getting their facilities inspected. We're going out of our way to inspect the facilities so the NATO suppliers can receive facilities and specimens. Our educational institutions are going without inspections. We're the ones paying the fees. The NATOs don't pay fees. So I think we need to redirect our priorities, and I know, you know, we're going to give credence to these special interest groups, but the number one priority for the state of Texas are the educational institutions, and they've been neglected, and they're not getting their money's worth. So I just want to put that out on the table.
Yes, sir. Well, your recommendation then is to have a stakeholder meeting with the educational institutions. And that's
Yes,
something
sir.
we can put on the next agenda. So
Many of our educational institutions have been waiting 3 and 4 months to have their facilities re-inspected, and they're all expired.
we will put that on the agenda, and that is with the licensing department. If there's inspections to be done, that's where they should be put to. That's a public on the website demand that they can have to have the inspections done, and by statute, they have to be done within a certain amount of time. So I would recommend that they go there and start there if there's an issue with the inspection not being done fast enough. But on the stakeholders for next agenda item, we will have that on there too, that if they want to form a group to come and speak to us or come on Zoom, that they sure can, and we welcome that. So on the agenda for next time, all the work groups come back, we discuss, we finalize at our next meeting, and then we hand those final recommendations off to our staff to be able to convert them to rules and regulations that then will be provided to the commission meeting on August 27th. But that needs to be in their notebooks by August the 9th to make sure that their notebooks are full and they have enough time to review. If we have all these subgroups, it covers a lot of our agenda for next meeting. Are there any other agenda items that the committee would like to discuss that is not part of everything that's listed today on our subgroup and work groups? We've talked about stakeholders too.
Question, Dr. Ali, and perhaps for Commissioner Tips. I wonder if there's something that this committee needs to do to provide information to the commission related to some of the applications that have come in. If there's questions that we can address to try to help the commission move forward with some of the out-of-state facilities and other facilities they're requesting, is there some way that this committee can help inform the commission to help us move forward in that area? So I guess that's my question.
Yeah, the question will have to be directed to me, but we can make on the agenda in essence, what assistance can the Anatomical Committee provide the commission in helping to review applications and complaints, any process that may take the burden off them, so we can at least provide advice. We can't make the final decision, as the commission will always make the final decision. But I see that would allow the Anatomical Committee to have more involvement and allow for more of the process to come through us to help relieve some of the burden and stress on the commissioners. So we'll put that on the agenda also for next time, about discussing what things the Anatomical Committee could help out with in the process that's in statute that allows the commission to have a little bit more advice from us on those topics.
Chair, is it appropriate, or will we always have a commissioner in our SAAC meetings, or are we just graced with Commissioner's tip today because she was available?
I mean, the commission is always welcome. They are not part of the committee, if I understand correctly, and please,
Correct.
Helen, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
So they are not required to be here. I think we're required to have a staff member here, and we're required to have legal counsel. Is that correct, Helen?
Yes, I mean, in this instance, Ms. Tips is operating as a member of the public to whom the meeting is open to.
Okay. Is it out of line to request a commissioner to be involved in these meetings so that there's a member that's heard the dialogue and discussion, and will maybe create some better interaction and direct communication between the committee and the commission.
Yeah, I mean, we can always request and invite, Commissioner Tips has been at every single meeting. And as she is the chairwoman now of the entire.
We
commission.
appreciate that.
Yeah, she's made them all. So,
Okay.
kudos to her, because she has busy days too. So she's here. So we can always make the request. I was there at the commission meeting yesterday. I got a chance to meet all the commissioners, and we will continue to show our presence at the commission meetings too, as everybody on this committee is welcome to come to also. And so we've requested to be on their agenda to be able to advise on all these different topics that we're going over.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Tips,
Yes.
for being here. Or sorry,
Any
public
other-
member, public attendee Tips.
Any other agenda items that you guys want to have on the next meeting? I think we have plenty with this to go over. This will be a longer meeting. It will probably be one of our regular 9 to 2 type of meetings when we do it to discuss, get everything done and finalized. Okay, if there's nobody else that's proposing any agenda items, then discussing the date, time, and location of the next meeting. Do we want to take a couple minutes right now and just get this done instead of sending 40 emails? If I'm looking to get all your recommendations back by July 20th or 19th, excuse me, that Friday, then maybe what we should be looking at is the week right after, which would be the 22nd through the 26th. Once again, it could be by Zoom. Whatever makes it easy. You do not have to drive all the way down here to Austin. We've done a lot of these on Thursdays. Let's see, actually, I'll be at the Tyler Medical School on that Thursday. July the 22nd is open for me. And the 26th is open for me on that week.
The 22nd works best for me.
Okay.
I can make either of them work. The 26th is better, but I can make either work.
Okay, I see 2 head nods for 22nd for Lapansky and Mena.
The 26th can work, either one.
Aaron, that's the last week of class for me. In fact, we're cleaning up lab on the 22nd. So of the 2 dates, 22nd or 26th, the 26th is better for me.
The 26th in the morning is best. That's the week our students return. My summer's over. That's our orientation week. Students actually show up on campus on the 22nd. But the morning of the 26th is great on my calendar.
Okay. Julie, the 26th, does that work on your calendar? Okay, thank you. Well, let's pick the 26th, and we can start earlier at 8 o'clock if that's necessary, so we can move things along. Unless people like the 9 o'clock, we'll get up and get going, get classes started.
My only issue, Chair, with the 26th, I have a standing 9 o'clock on Fridays. I can try to get out of it. If not, I wouldn't be available until about 10.
That's fine. We'll still have a quorum.
Okay.
And then as soon as you can join, we'll get you in.
Okay.
As long as your work group has all your recommendations involved with it, then you'll be fine.
Sounds good.
Okay, so committee, we're gonna set the next meeting on July 26th, starting at 9 a.m. Unless someone has a reason to change that to 8 a.m. Okay, so 9 a.m. it looks like. So we have our next meeting, we have our agenda items, we have our work groups assigned, and we did this all in 44 minutes. And that's how we should be running our meetings efficiently and quickly and moving fast and getting things done. Obviously, the next meeting will have more discussion, but since your work groups will have the best recommendations and data behind it, it should allow the committee to ask a few questions and hopefully vote at that time on each subcommittee's subgroup or work groups recommendations. Very good. Well, we are going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.
Before we do, I'd just like to welcome Ms. Long. Good to have you here with us.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard.
Yeah,
I think I met you somewhere before.
Just once.
Very good, everybody. Thank you all. You have a great day. Appreciate everybody's help.
All right.
you.